Permission to come aboard.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
And here we go.
Live from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina for the 100th time, welcome to a very special edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast. I, of course, am one of your hosts, the real Brad Bell, and joining me today is a bevy of guests. But first of all, let me introduce my not just friend, but partner, Jerry Reed, also known as
Barbecue 17. Hey Brad, how's it going today?
I'm doing great, man. You could not ask for a more randomly epic Tuesday morning than what we have planned here for episode 100. And joining me today is Barbecue 17's lovely wife, Kristen, also known as
Erithalia.
Man, we hadn't heard that in a long time. Wow.
It's been a while.
Goosebumps right there. Just goosebumps. Just flashback to 2013, guys. So, also joining me today is our other regular co-host of the Confirmed Epic Podcast, Andrew Stokes, also known as
Andrew Stokes.
And by his side is our semi-regular co-host, Kate McCall, also known as
Hissild.
All right. Welcome
What'd she say?
to episode
Hissild.
100.
Hissild.
Okay.
And here we go. All right, so this is a special episode, not just because it's 100 and not just because we're all together, but we're actually introducing the new format of the show. So you have probably never heard an episode of the Confirmed Epic Podcast like you're getting ready to hear.
Shouldn't we have saved that for 101?
One-on-one?
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it too late to discuss this?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little late for that.
All right, so basically what we're going to do is we'll open
Completely
up.
record in Estonian.
Yeah, no, that will not be good because I don't think Rosetta Stone has an Estonian edition. So what we're going to
It's in
do
the
is
name.
we're going to start out with a epic game segment, which we've been doing. We'll get into what we've been checking out. Then we'll get into our super segments, which is a new thing we're doing in the world of comics, collecting, movies, and television. So let's get into the epic game of this week, which is a versus segment. So, today's versus, which we've never done on the podcast, will consist of a who is the best Batman conversation. And let me be clear, we're not going to defend who we actually think is the best Batman.
Speak for yourself.
You may be, but I've forcefully given each one of you a Batman to defend within the context of this conversation. So make your argument for why the Batman that I gave you is your best Batman. Let me tell you who we have.
So continuing the tradition, will we mention the Christopher Nolan films?
Yes, Christopher Nolan will be mentioned heavily every episode of this podcast. And take a shot if you're playing the Confirmed Epic Podcast drinking game. So I, of course, have Christian Bale from the Nolan trilogy. Kate has Michael Keaton from the Burton films.
Best.
Andrew has Kevin Conroy. Kristen has Adam West. And Jerry has the Batfleck. So why don't we go in kind of chronological order of when these Batman appeared. Kristen, tell us why Adam West is the best Batman. Why should I believe that?
Well, anyone who has seen that show knows that it is fantastic. I mean, it's Adam West. He's just a fantastic Batman. Jerry and I were actually discussing some stuff earlier about him. He fully encapsulates exactly what comics books were in the 50s and 60s. It's cheesy, but it
Camp is a good word for it.
camp.
Yeah.
It's very campy.
Very campy.
Like the Riddler will come up with a nonsensical riddle.
Frank Gorshin Riddler? My favorite Riddler? Yeah, I love Frank Gorshin Riddler for sure.
He'll rattle it off and Batman will instantly be like, and it's a riddle that makes absolutely no sense, and Batman will be like, this is exactly what this means, and it's like, how the heck did you get that? But he makes it sound like it's obvious and it makes so much sense and he just moves right through it.
Like, what do you call 5 podcast hosts at a kitchen table on a Tuesday morning, episode 100?
Hashtag epic.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that they would do on that show. Well,
So simple.
I know I'm not supposed to be tearing apart your Batman. Like, feel free to prop the other Batman
But
up.
here he goes anyway.
No, I'm not. No, I'm going to prop this Batman up. He set the standard for what an on-screen Batman was, right? He brought Batman into here's another shot, cultural zeitgeist of the time. So, I mean, you got to give Adam West that credit.
You only had one Batman before Adam West, which was Lewis Wilson, who was in the old black and white serials, which a lot of people don't remember, and it's very, very, very different, and it kind of adheres to something that's a little bit the early comics, a little bit something like a pulp hero more than Batman. But Adam West definitely sets the standard and captures the feel of the comics of that era.
Now,
and what
also,
about the Batmobile, too?
Oh, that Batmobile was rocking. And where would we be without the Batusi?
I think we'd be just fine, Kristen.
I would agree that's definitely one of the most iconic elements of you might say, like, counterculture, or at least pop culture for the 60s. Not really counterculture, but pop culture for the 60s.
And that show, 66, was kind of right before the counterculture movement really, went into its own in 1968. Yes. So you have some kind of 60s innocence, which is not something you say, and that show does a good job representing that. But come on, when you think of what a Batman is today, do you think of Adam West? I don't. He's the complete opposite of everything Adam West is. If you think about a modern Batman, George Clooney was the closest thing, which I didn't assign to him, but I thank God. George Clooney was the closest thing to an Adam West Batman, and people hated it. So just because he's the first, does that necessarily make him the best? I would argue it does not.
The first. Lewis Wilson is the first.
I'm sorry. Well, if you ask most people on the street, who's the first Batman, they're going to say Adam West.
I think most people on the street wouldn't.
They would be wrong.
They'd say Michael Keaton.
They'd probably say Christian Bale.
Ben Affleck.
You have to keep in mind, though, that fads are cyclical. There's nothing to say that eventually his style of Batman would not again become the modern Batman.
We had the Brave and the Bold cartoon as well. That also kind of
even utilized the eyebrows
exactly
on the Bat cowl.
Maybe we need a little West Batman in Trump's America. Maybe that's the direction
that's what we're missing.
Yeah, make Batman great again. Go back to the Adam West style. Anything else, like off the top of your head, Kristen, that you really like about the Adam West Batman? I mean, you hit a bunch of the big factors there.
I mean, if we're just looking at Batman now, I mean, the villains are fantastic, and that Catwoman and Riddler and everybody else, but...
You get 3 Catwomen.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. What's better than 1 Catwoman? 3. It's perfect, right? All right.
Like...
So, who's your favorite Catwoman, Jerry, from the Batman 66?
I really like Julie Newmar.
I'd say Julie Newmar is my favorite too.
I have an autographed picture of Julie Newmar that says, "To Jerry, you're perfect."
Yeah. And it's hanging right here in his living room for everybody to see. No, it's actually not, but that's believable. We're actually broadcasting from the original site of the Confirmed Epic podcast. We're not in the studio, but we're at the location where we recorded the very first episode when we reviewed Bullet to the Head. So next up would be the Keaton Batman, which Kate has. So why is Tim Burton's Keaton Batman the best Batman?
Because he has an element of theater. You don't know anything about Batman, but Keaton comes in and he gives you Batman. Well, I'm just saying, you start the movie and it's just, I'm Batman. And you believe him because he is. He comes in with all the mystery and intrigue that you need from, the Dark Knight. He comes in, and I know that's a newer term, but, there's rumors about him on the street. He comes in his dark cowl. You think he gets shot, but he stands right back up. But then you've also got him being Bruce Wayne, and he's good at it.
I think Keaton may be the best at playing both Bruce Wayne and Batman.
I would agree.
They're very, very different characters.
They are.
And his Bruce feels very much like an act at times.
Yes.
But then also very much like there's a true Bruce, there's an act Bruce, and there's Batman.
Hashtag true Bruce. Michael Keaton.
One of the things that's interesting about Keaton is, people were very upset about Keaton. There was a letter writing campaign. People took out ads against Michael Keaton because all he was known for was comedy.
Like Mr. Mom.
But you're right, he brought something very theatrical and different.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with having that little bit of comedy back there either. Again, it would harken back to the Adam West Batman, where you're just like, this is who Batman is. This is who he's been in the past. now we're just going to give you Batman. We're not going to give you some crazy backstory. You don't know what he's been doing the past since his parents died. But here he is, and he is Batman.
And if you think about what pushed Batman tonally to what he is today, I hate to say dark and gritty, but that's what Batman is. It was Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns and then Keaton Batman. I think that's the...
Very much like a 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
that changes the tone of the character.
Yeah, that's the two things that people would point to. So I think there is a really good argument to be made for Keaton.
Because let's be honest, throughout the late 70s and the early 80s, I mean, Batman was still very much characterized by... You had the Hanna-Barbera appearances, so you had like Batman and Scooby-Doo and all those things. You still had the syndication of the 66 Batman show, and you had like superpowers and things like that, and Super Friends, all of those cartoons from the 70s, early 80s, where Batman was definitely not, we might say, the Dark Knight that he became without that combination of Frank Miller.
There's one problem. One problem with this Batman that I don't like, and I love Keaton Batman. He kills. He brutally murders.
Whatever.
And that is like one of the cardinal sins of a Batman. He's not supposed to kill. Well, Batfleck does.
I was about to say.
I think that has definitely been one of the interesting things that a couple of the films have done. It would be very interesting to go back and look at where I really don't think that Batman becomes so adamant in the comics about not taking life until...
That's the next Batman reboot, by the way. Batman Becomes.
Until sometime in the 80s.
Not sure that's a joke.
But remember, there's instances early on where Batman certainly does.
Oh, yeah. The early DC comics. And you've been reading some of that stuff, so yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, but the symbol that Keaton has is just very iconic, and I like the return symbol's a little different from the 89 symbol. Yeah. I think that Returns Batman suit, again, that's Keaton, is my favorite Batman suit. Well, that and the Batman Forever Sonar suit.
Yeah.
I love that suit. God, I love that suit. So yeah, that's a really good argument for Michael Keaton that I helped make, and I feel bad that I'm like gonna crap on my own Batman here a little bit. So next up we have Kevin Conroy. He's been Batman in Batman the Animated Series and the Arkham games and several animated films. So, a.k.a. Andrew Stokes, why is he the best Batman?
Well, Michael Keaton was the best at being Batman and Bruce Wayne until Kevin Conroy showed up, because he was definitely the best at being both Bruce Wayne and Batman. I feel like he was the first one to do those separate voices for the two characters that Batman's kind of disguising himself when he's out on the prowl. It's just if he definitely has the quantity of a Batman, like you said. I mean, it was the animated series, but it was like all of the animated series and Justice League and Batman Beyond and stuff. And then he's done a ton of movies. Like you said, he did the Arkham games. Like he's just, his voice is Batman to a lot of people through different media.
When you read a Batman comic, a lot of people hear his voice in their head.
His voice is the voice I hear.
Just like they hear Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's really the only Joker to me.
Really?
That's a different debate. All right. That's a different debate.
I'm getting goosebumps, but in a different way.
So, and it just, that series, I feel like, still holds up today in a lot of ways. People still revere it, you know what I mean? And
Blu-rays,
yeah.
Big SDCC announcement from this year.
So, I don't know. Like you said, a lot of people, even reading the comics, think of Kevin Conroy. They hear Kevin Conroy.
But it's a voice, Andrew. He's not actually physically portraying the character. So how can that be?
Well, I'm going to let you know a little secret. None of those other actors are actually Batman either. They're all acting.
Well, I know. But he doesn't have to bring any physicality to the role. And that's
you think voice acting isn't a physical thing?
I was about to say, you'd be very wrong on that.
You
because
should watch
a lot
voice
of times
actors.
they have to physically act it out so that they sound
Hamill
correct.
Hamill does that a lot, I know, with Joker.
Yeah.
But I think if we did a poll, which we could have done, I think...
we could have done it in segments.
Yeah.
two choices at a time.
I think most people would have probably voted Kevin Conroy, so it's kind of is hard to argue against.
Yeah, I'm glad you side with me, Brett.
But
Thank you.
We're trying.
Kevin Conroy has been a Batman for, you might say, a couple generations of people.
Exactly,
You
yeah.
have the animated series, and then Justice League Unlimited.
Oh,
is
yeah.
definitely a different age group to some extent that
Right.
grew up with that. And then the Arkham games could technically be a different generation as well.
Different generation, like I said, different media too. If you only played the Batman games, you still know Kevin Conroy's Batman
Going
voice.
on about 30 years as Batman.
Yeah,
That's-
so
that's-
he has
He's
the
a good
quantity
guy,
and the
too.
quality.
He started.
He is Batman.
So during 9/11, Kevin Conroy lives in New York. During when 9/11, after all that tragedy took place, he left his apartment and went and started volunteering at like a burger joint they were serving 9/11 volunteers,
Right.
and he just wanted to be back. He stayed there. He worked 7 days the week after 9/11 just as a cook. And I hope he served as Batman. How cool would that be?
So he's not just the best Batman; he's just the best man.
Yeah,
So there you go.
Which I could not make that argument for the person that I'm about to talk about, which is Christian Bale from the Christopher Nolan trilogy that we have mentioned from time to time on this podcast. Well, I think he is the best Bruce Wayne, in my opinion. I think Keaton is the best at balancing Bruce Wayne and Batman, as Kate said. But when I think of because we always say about Batman as opposed to Spider-Man that Batman is who he is and Bruce Wayne is a show that he puts on. And I think whereas Spider-Man, it's like Peter Parker's who he is and he has this responsibility to be Spider-Man, right? Well, I think back to that scene in Batman Begins where he goes into that hotel with the two models and just kind of acts like a complete ass, which kind of, I guess, fits Christian Bale in real life based on stories that we've heard in the past about him. But when I think of how Bruce Wayne would act, I think that really hit the nail on the head. As far as like physicality, just to see him do those sit-ups and push-ups and take that, just prepare. He was, until Affleck, he was probably the most beefed up Batman, I would say. Now you see Ben Affleck flipping those tires in Batman vs. Superman, you kind of forget about Christian Bale doing those sit-ups in Batman Begins. But I think he's the only actor to play Batman in a trilogy of films. To complete a trilogy. Keaton didn't get to do that. Of course, Kilmer and Clooney didn't get to do that. I mean, Ben Affleck, I wouldn't really call it a trilogy, what he's doing. So I feel like he has a complete work as Batman. Now, he has that voice. Get over here. That's Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, actually. That's not Batman.
Swear to me.
Yeah. Where are the drugs? Where's the trigger? Where's the trigger?
Should have given a disclaimer to turn the
sorry,
volume
turn
down.
the volume
down.
Just turn it off.
We talk about physicality when he's beating the crap out of Bane, like, and he has some of the best lines. Like and it's in the Dark Knight Rises trailer. Catwoman's like, "You've given these people everything, not everything, not yet." And I mean, a lot. That's very good writing. And Jerry just got
Which has
goosebumps.
nothing to do with the Batman actor.
Well, he delivered the line very well.
Delivers those lines.
Yeah, okay, but he didn't come up with it himself. I mean, if you have to have physical acting and can't just be a voice actor, then you should prepare your own lines, right?
One of the things
No, I don't agree with that at all.
One of the things I think about Christian
I don't have a
Bale
voice, but-
is that we have never seen a Batman. We had never seen a Batman move the way he did in films at that point. Michael Keaton's moves are very, very stiff but calculated. And I would say sort of the same thing. I don't know. I feel Kilmer and Clooney are best forgotten, but very generic.
I don't know, but I like Kilmer.
Very, very generic. The way Christian Bale moved was the way that you always kind of imagined that Batman would move. That it was, again, you saw the whole progress of the character. He showed you the character progress from being, the young, angry man when seeing everything happen with his parents' murder. Because you see him at the court hearings and things.
Yeah.
All the way to being sort of that Batman at the top of his prime. And so, but the way he moves adds a different dimension to the physicality of that role.
Jerry, why could Affleck be argued as the best Batman?
All right, so I'm taking on Ben Affleck's Batman here. I've got a couple reasons for this. Again, Ben Affleck is not my personal favorite Batman, but there's some things that I absolutely love that he brings to the character. One, I think the look. Ben Affleck's look, to me, is the closest we've ever seen.
That's the costume designer, though.
It's still his face.
It's the costume
I'm joking.
designer.
I'm going back to this argument.
It's the costume designer, but it's also the way he carries himself. There's an intensity there, but it almost feels like a very natural intensity. At times with Christian Bale's Batman, I feel like he's having to, sort of psych himself into the role. Ben Affleck feels very natural, as this is him. This is Batman, and Bruce Wayne is just the facade. I also think that when we reviewed Batman vs. Superman, one of the two times that we reviewed that film, because we reviewed it twice, the different versions of it, I remember Amos was on the first podcast, right? Was Amos on the first BVS podcast?
No, I think it was a Gascocles.
Was it
from
Gascocles? I knew it was one of our two
yeah.
folks who don't come on often. Okay, am I right?
Yeah, that's right. It was a Gascocles Stamus who participated in our poll that we did for this show.
Okay. I remember that he had said that this was a
3-hour podcast.
It was very long. That Batman vs. Superman, despite its faults, was offering a very different, bold vision of doing something with the character, doing something very different. And one of the things I think Ben Affleck shows in his Batman is his Batman actually changes. And that's not something that we typically see Batman do a lot. We see from just Batman vs. Superman to Justice League, Batman and Bruce actually change. And Ben Affleck starts showing us a Batman who goes from that extremely violent vigilante who crosses lines and doesn't seem to have who has left his code behind. So we're looking at an older, more mature Batman, and then goes back to more of that cooperative Batman who works alongside the Justice League, who starts being able to, trust other heroes again. I also think Affleck, and again, I don't like the fact that Affleck is killing people as Batman.
And branding them, literally branding them.
Now, the branding part doesn't bother me, because Batman doesn't kill, but Batman is not nice. And I can see the branding aspect. Again, we're seeing kind of a different vision of Batman that we really haven't seen before, and this is that Batman who has sort of gone unhinged. I would argue that other than in the, something like the Dark Knight Returns, Affleck's Batman is supposed to be the oldest or the most mature Batman that we have seen in kind of a major media presentation.
And I wish we could see his backstory. I wish we could see a young Ben Affleck. Maybe they could de-age him. Now, they'd never do this, but I don't think they should do it. But every time they mention, like, his encounters with the Joker or the Penguin, I think, man, what would that have looked like playing out on screen?
Yeah. I would like to see a solo Ben Affleck Batman movie for sure.
I want one at least.
Yeah, at least
nice.
one.
It's not going to happen.
I would argue, though, that Kevin Conroy also shows some of that same change and progression. Because we have, like, a solo Batman. We have a solo Batman with Robin. We have, Robin splitting, and we have, the whole Nightwing thing and his relationship with Batgirl, not only through the series, but also through some of the standalone movies. We have him with the Justice League, where he kind of changes. I mean, it's kind of the nature of the fact that he is Batman so long. You know what I mean?
Naturally happens.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do think that we get some of that as well from Kevin Conroy also. Definitely not in the span, that the short span that Ben Affleck's Batman is
some
doing.
very severe changes.
Yeah.
Though. We see some very different things. He took on a very different Batman role, and whether you like it or not, it does bring something very different to the table. He didn't really model himself on anybody who came before.
Right, yeah. Like visual, like you see, like aesthetically, like the people that are helping create this movie are definitely looking at different Batman inspirations, like the Dark Knight and stuff like that. But yeah, he himself is kind of his own Batman. I agree.
All right, let's go around the table and say who we actually think is the best Batman. I'll start. I'm going to go with Kevin Conroy. What about you?
I think I'm going to have to agree, Kevin Conroy.
What about you, Jerry?
For me, the best Batman is probably Kevin Conroy. The best Bruce Wayne is probably Michael Keaton.
What a cop-out. All right, go ahead, guys.
The best Batman and Bruce Wayne was, of course, Kevin Conroy, like I said.
What do you think, Kate?
Conroy.
All right, pretty much clean sweep for
It's
Kevin
confirmed
Conroy.
Conroy.
Yeah, confirmed Conroy. That's right. Hashtag confirmed Conroy. Okay, let's get into what we've been checking out this week.
Check checklist? Check. Double checking of checklist? Check.
Kate, what have you been checking out this week?
I have been checking out Nailed It.
All right, tell us what Nailed It is, because I have no idea.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
really don't.
Well, it's a Netflix original. It's just a short little, I think there's 6 episodes each season. There's 2 seasons out right now. It's literally just a bunch of amateur bakers coming in and trying to recreate things like you'd see on Pinterest. So they've done, like a unicorn cake, or they had some people carve a watermelon to look like, animals or whatever. And it's really good and nice because it's not really competitive. There's a prize, but it's just a bunch of people doing very poorly in a kitchen. And I really appreciate that because, you see all these people posting their before and afters. This is what I was trying to make, and I made a bunch of hot dogs, apparently. It's just good.
So they're supposed to be intentionally bad cooks.
No, they're not intentionally bad. They are just amateur. So, I recently started working with fondant because I made somebody a birthday cake. That crap's hard.
Yes, it is.
It's very easy
it
to
doesn't
tear.
even taste good.
I had some
love
good
fondant.
one.
Ugh.
Not the
I had
argument here.
All right. First topic. Does fondant taste good? No, go ahead.
Yes, or
Marshmallow
no?
fondant
Does
does.
fondant good?
You need more. You need more options.
Yeah, we should have put that as a poll.
Yeah. Anyway,
Like fondant.
baking, you see stuff that people do, and you're like, yeah, I can do that. You can't. You can't. And of course, they make it intentionally. You don't have as much time as you would maybe need. But it's great because, it's just 3 people. They get up there. They do their best. The bakers are as nice as they can be. The judges are just... Jacques Torres is the main fancy judge, and I don't know if y'all are familiar with him, but
Yes.
he is
He's a
French.
French
Yes,
one.
good job. He is a famous chocolatier and baker, so him being on the show is actually a pretty big deal.
Well, Abby and I really like baking shows. We really get into them at Christmas, like the Great Holiday Bake Off and stuff like that. But one thing you know about baking is everything has to be so precise. If you mess one thing up, you're screwed cooking. You throw a different spice in, it could taste good, but it's not going to happen with
This
baking.
very much exemplifies that. They mess up a lot because they're not looking at measurements or whatever. It's just a good show, and it's kind of wholesome. You should get into it.
You should watch. I mean, they're like half-hour episodes. And they go by quick.
I think you nailed that checking out, Kate.
Nailed it.
All right. What about you, Andrew Stokes? What have you been checking out?
I've been playing the game that's sweeping the younger generation, Fortnite. They released it for the Switch back in June, right around E3. And, I kind of seen it, as I watch my YouTubes and whatnot.
Now you sound old.
I come across it a time or two. I'm like, I'm going to check it out. It's a free game, the Battle Royale game. I'm going to check this out. And, it was just fun. I really got into it. Found myself playing... I don't know, somewhat frequently, you know what I mean? And it's just, I think it being on the Switch helps. Like, I can literally, right before bed, I could just sit in bed and play a game or two on the Switch. It turns into 5, sure. And then I just have other friends that were either into it or starting to get into it as well because it's on the Switch and stuff. So just started playing with them somewhat frequently. Again, being on the Switch helps. They can just bring their Switch over. We could sit around and play almost like, couch co-op or those old LAN parties you used to do.
The good old days.
I want to come play it on the Switch with you.
Okay,
Come do it. It's nice.
Download it. Yeah,
I'm not very good at it.
What?
You can't be on our team then.
No, yeah,
But I've only played it 3 times.
But I was enjoying it so much. I got the battle pass for the newest season, which it's a thing that unlocks a lot more challenges for you to do, so you can unlock things as you go at a more frequent rate than like you would at the free tier or whatever.
So it lives up to the hype because it has tremendous hype right now.
I think so. I mean, it's definitely not for everybody. There's definitely like an aspect to it. I see some people play it, you might play Call of Duty and you see somebody that is really good and you're like, okay, I'll keep playing and maybe I can get to this level. I see people
you can't.
I see people playing Fortnite and I'm like, never ever will I be in this. Never will I build a giant, metal tower in 5 seconds. Like, I will never be at this level, but I'm just going to enjoy, the aspects I'm good at.
Right. Well, and I don't like those kind of games. I'm very bad at shooters. I really enjoy this game. And it's not just that the controls are a lot easier, I think, than some others. But it's got the neat aspects where you can build your fort or whatever. And
it's a goofy aesthetic.
Right. And and the game keeps changing. They did a real life campaign where they made the head of a burger character that's in the game, and they threw it in the middle of the desert for people to just find.
In the real desert. It disappeared from the game and showed up in California as
that's
this viral marketing.
It's cool. Yeah. It's a very interesting
As
game.
if the game needs any more hype.
Yeah.
And, of course, Epic is based here in North Carolina, the studio that makes it behind it. So they're also behind Gears of War.
Cliff Brzezinski started that studio.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, supporting local business by playing Fortnite.
The local businesses are doing great. I'm telling you, great. The best they've ever done. They're magnificent. You won't believe it.
So let's hear from somebody else, right?
All right. Jerry, what have you been checking out?
So I've been checking out a couple things this week, but one of the comics I read was Star Wars Dr. Aphra Volume 3, and it's called Remastered.
Dr. Aphra.
Dr. Aphra. I said Aphra. Aphra. Dr. Aphra, I assume. Again, not heard the character's name pronounced anywhere, but I'm assuming it's Dr. Aphra, because that's what everybody else says. So anyways, Dr. Aphra appeared in the Vader comics a couple years ago, and now she's got her own series, and we're up to issue... Well, this is a trade.
22 is where the main series is at right now.
Yeah, so definitely has been very successful. Dr. Aphra, along with the two droids,
BT and 000.
BT and 000 are the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives for the Star Wars Vintage Collection.
Means we'll never own them.
So yeah,
probably not.
We'll see. Looks like some rumors today that Dr. Aphra may show up in the Black series though, so that's good because that's the one I collect, the 6-inch figures.
She's gonna be out in the Vintage series. I saw that.
Yeah, the Vintage collection. She'll be by herself without the droids. But anyways, one of the things I'm not talking too much about the plot of the comic, but a couple of the elements of the comic which are really cool. Again, I think Marvel is just, and I probably say this every time I talk about one of the Marvel Star Wars comics. I think they are doing a better job of capturing the Star Wars feel than the films are currently, with the exception of Rogue One and Solo. Marvel, then the sequel trilogy.
Just gave me a good look. I tried to go back and watch Rogue One around, I guess around when Solo came out.
Yeah.
And I thought it was boring as hell. It was so freaking... Now, the Vader scene, iconic.
Rogue One?
Yeah. I was bored with it.
Yeah, Rogue One, the first time I saw it, I said...
I liked it the first time.
It's fine. It's I feel like that movie should be a 45-minute short film, just the final battle and that Vader scene. And that's all I would need, and that was the exciting part. Everything leading up to it. Now, Jerry, you had read the, novel tied in or something like
Catalyst.
that. So, right. I knew nothing about these characters, and I don't think the movie helped me really like these characters. I think the droid was the best, the
K2SO.
K2SO.
Yeah. So, again, it's not. I've definitely seen worse films, but I did feel like it was boring and lagging.
It wouldn't be the Confirmed Epic podcast if the dogs
There's gotta be some dogs barking here.
Yeah. Usually it's beagles howling, but we're not at my house.
Yeah,
so
we got a Doberman pointer.
But
or whatever.
I really like Dr. Aphra. I've been reading this series solo. I may drop it because I'm thinking about. I was talking to Andrew about this earlier this week. Maybe going more towards trades, like you are, like you do. And it's kind of like Indiana Jones in the Star Wars universe if she was like a millennial.
Yeah,
or he was a she too.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely an element here that Dr. Aphra is kind of that. She's an archaeologist. She's a doctor, but she also very much is a scoundrel. And she's not. A lot of the Star Wars scoundrels end up, turning into good characters. Is Dr. Aphra a good character, a hero?
No.
Not really. She's kind of out for herself. So it really is seeing something that's very different. Han Solo, is he a scoundrel? Yeah. But guess what? I mean, Han Solo at his heart, he is a good character.
Tobias Beckett's a good character.
Tobias Beckett,
Yeah.
You might say to some extent. But Lando Calrissian, I mean, at his heart, and he's a hero. Will Dr. Aphra get there? Maybe. But at this point, she's definitely kind of against the Empire when it suits her. And she's in favor of the rebellion when it suits her. But one of the things I really like about this is they've brought in the Rebels characters. Hera Syndulla is part of this, and this takes place prior to Empire Strikes Back. So you have the Rebels characters show up there. You have a lot of prequel things pop up, like there's an Imperial data vault that's actually, and they use an old, one of the Trade Federation droid control ships from Episode 1 to tow this Imperial information vault.
I'll tell you who I'd like to see play Dr. Aphra live action.
Like to see play Dr. Aphra?
Olivia Munn.
Olivia Munn?
I could see her as Dr. Aphra.
I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's her name from Thor? Thor 2. Not Natalie Portman.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Kat
my God.
Dennings.
No. You know who would be a good one from Thor 3? She's in Westworld Season 2.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on her name. Oh my gosh, she's in Creed.
Well, at least I can remember her name. I think Kat Denning could be a good.
No, this girl's like one of the biggest actresses right now, and I'm just like, it's just like a brain freeze.
No idea.
Tessa Thompson, that's her name. And I didn't look that up, but Kate was about to.
I was about to tell you.
Yeah, Tessa Thompson could be a great Dr. Aphra. I could see
I don't
that.
know who that is.
You hadn't seen Thor Ragnarok?
No, I have seen Thor Ragnarok.
She's Valkyrie.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't you see this?
Possibly. So I could see it.
Brad, what do you think about Emily Blunt?
Oh, I was about to say that.
I don't know. I think she's a little too old to play Dr. Aphra now. She's in that Mary Poppins age range.
She's going to hear this because you said something negative
I
about
love
her.
Emily
She's
Blunt.
listening. She's listening to this podcast.
She is not retweeting us now.
Yeah. So that's Dr. Aphra. What volume's that, Jerry?
This is volume 3.
Okay. What about you, Kristen? What have you been checking out?
I have been binging through season 2 of The Handmaid's Tale.
Which is a very critically acclaimed show.
Yes, it is based on the book by Margaret Atwood.
And the main girl from, actress from Handmaid's Tale.
You looked at me.
There's
two women here.
Let me turn to my left too. The main actress in Handmaid's Tale. I don't know who it is. She was nominated at the Emmys for Best Actress, and she's up against Claire Foy from The Crown, which we've been watching, and the other girl from Westworld. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on names. Evan Rachel Wood. Yeah, Evan Rachel Wood. So tell us, you enjoy The Handmaid's Tale, Kristen? Was season 2 as good as season 1, or has it been a step down? We don't want to spoil it too much because I think there's some people that may want to watch it eventually.
Yeah, I have been told I'm not allowed to go into too much detail because not everyone around the table has seen season 2. But
should have released it all at one time. They did do that where they released it like week by week or whatever, right? This time around.
Yeah, they did week by week.
So that's what kind of I've been waiting to binge. I think it's all out now. Then
yeah, it's all out now.
I guess I know what I'm doing later
now.
today.
He has plans now. I've really enjoyed the show. I feel like it was very true to. I feel like season one was basically the book brought to life, with a few additions. And season 2 was very true to season 1, just taking the story further. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it brings a lot more to the first.
Raises the stakes.
So you definitely,
yes.
You definitely read the book. Did you read it prior to the first, or
after watching the first season?
Has a lot of heart too, I hear. So that's Handmaid's Tale.
A little more than you would realize in
right?
season 2.
Hulu.
That's on Hulu.
All right, Hulu. Okay, which is one
streaming.
We'll talk about streaming a little bit later on.
But you're liking season 2 more than 1?
Or
is it different?
Perhaps it's different.
Okay.
Very interesting.
It
based on where season 1 ends,
it raises the stakes in a way that it could go a lot of different ways.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
All right.
It's interesting to me, and I'm not watching the show, but
you're not?
No, but
he's seen bits and pieces.
Well, I've seen bits and pieces.
No,
it's interesting to me from what you've told me, Kristen, that you're taking a book that's been around for a while, correct?
It was written in the 80s before the Berlin Wall.
Okay, so it's been around
down.
for a while, and it's, very critically acclaimed, piece of literature that's adapted and then expanding off of it. Usually you don't see a lot of expansion from something that's kind of an older piece of literature, unless it's something that's kind of a genre type of genre type of book, like Dracula or Frankenstein, or a sci-fi novel or something. So just interesting doing that, expanding off of something.
And they've expanded it very well.
But
a lot of times
they've worked with Margaret Atwood.
I believe so, yeah.
It's interesting that you're reading this, and this was like it came out like right before the Berlin Wall came down, and now the Berlin Wall is going back up. So it's interesting that you're reading that right now. The state of politics in this country. Am I right, guys? Am I right?
Nah.
No.
It's definitely a show that a lot of people, I think, are feeling is very relevant to the political climate right now.
Sure. Yeah, I have a lot of friends who feel that way.
Downplaying the rights of women and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've been checking out another CW superhero show.
And that's all the time we have for you. Thank you for joining us.
Andrew pokes fun at me because I've stuck through most of these shows. I'm caught up on all of them except Supergirl. I'm 3 seasons behind. I hope to catch up.
Oh my God, it's been out that long?
Yeah, it's going to be starting the 4th season coming up. But I watched...
Wait, so there's only 3 seasons and you're 3 seasons behind?
Yes, I haven't. I've watched...
Okay, so you haven't watched it. Gotcha.
To clarify, I watched 20 minutes of the pilot, okay? So I don't know.
Which pilot?
So I've watched
Supergirl?
more than you.
Supergirl.
Is that?
Yeah, I think you've watched more.
I watched the whole first episode. I've watched the Flash crossover episode.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I've watched more than you, though.
Did you watch the Aliens crossover?
Of course no, man.
I did. I watched that one. It was Heroes versus Aliens, so cleverly named. So you didn't check that out. It was actually pretty good. But back to Black Lightning. I really enjoyed this show. I had it on my DVR from when it came on. I just never got to get around to watching it. Abby deleted it because she hates the CW shows. Thinks
she's got good taste.
Thinks they're just ridiculously cheesy. Thinks it's just a big waste of time. Said I would rather you watch wrestling than watch this crap. That was an exact quote from Abby.
It's a better soap opera.
So here's what I like. Black Lightning was only 13 episodes, which was really beneficial to the story of the show. There wasn't any filler. It was really smooth, not a kind of freak of the week episode. It was the main overarching story that carried through all 13 episodes. And one thing that I really take away is that Jefferson Pierce, who is Black Lightning, is probably the most complex and maybe the most interesting character in the Arrowverse. Because this show has a very, very good dichotomy of him as Black Lightning and him as principal of Garfield High. And the stuff where he's principal, and a lot of this has to do with me being in education and stuff, but I think it's as interesting, if not more interesting, than all the stuff he does as Black Lightning. And it's really about him in the community and being the principal of Garfield High and him as a dad more than it is about him as a superhero, which you don't think of when you think of a CW show. You think maybe that would be more of like a Netflix type show, and CW is all punch 'em up, freak of the week. But this, and I like that. Andrew knows I do. That's why he's smirking at me. But, man, I really recommend it. Like, even if you watch this show in isolation, because they name drop Supergirl and Flash and stuff, but there's no crossover whatsoever. But, man, it was a really good show and a very timely show.
I'm probably getting ready to start watching through. I've watched most of the first season of Arrow. Probably getting ready to start watching through these because I really want to watch
Batwoman. A journey.
I really want to watch Batwoman. I'm just excited. I know
You're going to watch all of them leading up to this?
I don't know. I might try to start.
No. So. If you couldn't even finish the first season of Arrow.
Well, it wasn't anything wrong with the show. I'm a bad TV watcher.
He is.
So it takes me a while to watch things, but I've heard nothing but good things about Flash. So
that was for me.
Let me take your ear for a moment. I did recently, as of a couple weeks ago, I was like, you know what, these shows, they're not the best, but there's some entertainment value. Maybe I just watched the Flashpoint DC animated movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I know season 3 of Flash, where I left off, was like their kind of version of Flashpoint. Let me check it out. I made it one episode in, and I was like, yeah, I remember why I stopped watching these shows.
For Flash?
So, yeah, Flash.
I've heard nothing but good things
really
about
love
it from
The
a
Flash.
lot of people.
I mean, again, there's some entertainment aspects to it. These are the shows that I would list as like guilty pleasure shows, and then I'm not embarrassed I watch them, but I wouldn't recommend them to people.
I don't know if I wouldn't say guilty. If
I would
you're
say
a
for me, like to
superhero
me,
fan, I don't think they're guilty
again,
pleasure.
how I kind of define it, because
Riverdale's a guilty pleasure show.
how I kind of define guilty pleasure for me is is something I enjoy but I wouldn't recommend. Something I think is, probably would be seen as bad by most people, but I still enjoy it and I watch it.
Do you think Jerry would see it as bad? Because
Well,
I
that's
think
what I'm saying. I
Jerry
don't
would
know.
love this.
To me, the Flash and all the shows, they kind of feel like a young adult version of Power Rangers. If you were to take Power Rangers and make it young adult, this
Sounds awesome. I'm sold.
But again, there's parts that are like I love the first season of Legends of Tomorrow.
Now that did feel like
I thought
Power
that was really
Rangers,
good.
yeah.
I thought it felt very much like Justice League, the show, and Justice League live action more than the Justice League movie did. But the drama, like the cool aspects of the heroes fighting the villains is the high. And it can be a pretty, high. And then the very next scene is like some stupid drama that's so idiotic that no reasonable adult would find themselves in like these conversations, that it's like such a low that going back and forth is dizzying sometimes, where it's like, oh, that was awesome. Oh my God, I can't believe I watched this. Oh, that's really cool.
Black
oh my
Lightning
God,
is
this
the
again.
opposite, though.
Like it's...
You look forward to like the drama in Black Lightning.
Well, and what I'm hearing from you is it's a standalone. It's just the 13. They're not.
Yeah,
gonna
it's
do more?
only No, they're gonna do a season 2, but like it doesn't cross over with like Arrow and Flash and Supergirl.
If
But
it
it's
were
the
a
same
standalone
universe.
and it was just we started and we ended, I would be interested, because I agree that some of the first seasons
feels
of these
like
shows are fine. They're entertaining, but then they go completely off the rails and just turn into big soap operas.
If there was never another episode of Black Lightning, it's a complete story. Like they
I
did
watch
it
it then.
probably thinking they probably were never going to do a season 2.
Yeah, I mean, you have me interested in it, and I might check it out knowing it's not connected and self-contained. I might actually check out an episode
You
or
should.
two,
I'm
but-
depressed it's over now. Like it's
I mean,
not many shows that I binge watch now. I'm like, man, I hate that's over.
I know it's not like their model of what they're doing over there, but I really think that the longer shows would be better if they were shorter seasons as well.
They
if Arrow and
should.
Flash weren't stretching for 20 some odd
They need
episodes.
to be 10 episodes.
I do like the 10-episode season that Netflix does with some of their shows.
They're-
that I've
the
watched.
I mean,
Netflix
CW
shows
does
are
it
so
for a lot,
dense,
though. Like you said,
though.
they did it for Black Lightning. They're still doing it for Legends of Tomorrow, right? It's a smaller show.
Yeah.
The 100 is typically a smaller. Like they have shows that they keep smaller, and I think those are typically some of their better
100
ones.
sounds like a lot of episodes, but
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all great.
And there's a game called the 100 in Black Lightning. Okay, you ready to get into this? What I appropriately deem the super segments, guys?
No.
super segments.
Okay, first up
segments, guys.
is going to be
Super segment.
TV. So, news broke from theinformation.com, because that is a real website, that Walmart is doing their own streaming service to compete with the likes of Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime and so on. And that was kind of the basis for this discussion, just to kind of talk about streaming and this Walmart streaming service in general. First of all, is this going to be marketable as Walmart streaming? Like, are people going to see Walmart and be like, oh yeah, the streaming service, will this work? What do you guys
I
think?
don't think anybody sees Amazon as, oh yeah, the streaming service, but if it's quality stuff, if they have their own Man in the High Castle or a nice library of things, like Amazon was the first one that it was the only way to get HBO without HBO. They have some of their shows on there. If they do something that's good, I don't think anybody's going to care who it is putting it out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if it's Walmart. McDonald's wants to do a streaming service. As long as it's good, people doesn't care. It's McDonald's streaming. You know what I mean? They may not see Walmart as the streaming company, but they'll subscribe.
What is their thinking behind this, though? Just getting
Like
in on the
Amazon.
action?
They're trying to edge into that online market, and Amazon is not just an online retailer. They have their own music streaming. They have their own
Right.
video streaming. They're trying to edge into that market.
Well,
I
and
would
that's
assume.
not the only area in which they've been doing that either. You know, Walmart's got their pickup service now where you do all your shopping online and they bring it to your car. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
they're definitely trying to get on their level.
They're trying to innovate.
They let third-party sellers sell on their website, which often leads to some problems, but they have that aspect too that Amazon and eBay and other places have used.
It's just when I think of Walmart, I think of a physical store. With Amazon, I never thought of that because Amazon was always online. So when they got into these other online marketplaces, like you guys said, streaming and music, I'm like, well, it makes sense. Not that Walmart can't do this. I just don't think of it that way. Kristen, you were going to say something.
If you walk around Walmart, you hear their ads playing. They're really trying to compete with Amazon Prime, and it's free. You don't have to pay $90 a year for this. You know, they're really, really, really amping up.
So
to compete
Walmart
with
has free shipping now on everything.
For site to store.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know if they're still doing site to store, but whatever they're doing, yeah.
And I don't see any reason why they can't become, like you said, you don't think of them as anything but a physical store. I don't see why they can't continue these transitions to where people stop thinking of it as that. They'll have, they'll have their distribution center and people can still go there. But, I mean, we've already tried their delivery service thing.
How was it?
It was fine. I put in my order. They've got a $30 limit or, minimum. But, you get your lunches for the week and water and whatever, and you get there pretty fast, and they just bring it to your car. It's very convenient. You do it all on your app. I mean, it's not I ordered it online and it came in the next day, but you can pick it up the next day. It's not having to go in the store anymore, dig around, buy more stuff than you intended because there's things there,
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the bad things about, like, the physical store, especially, like, at Walmart, our location. It's just inconveniently placed sometimes. And so it's like, man, I don't have the time to, I'd rather pay more to go somewhere quicker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that service does kind of, like, it takes the hassle out of Walmart almost. Like,
I'm not sure I could pull into a Walmart without wanting to go back and check out the action figure aisle.
I mean, or the board.
That never happens.
Right, or the board game, so it keeps me from going back there and maybe like, maybe I could pick this up. Like,
it'll just be interesting to see what type of content they offer. And the thing that I'm starting to wonder about, we used to ask, are we at a saturation point with streaming services? Now I'm wondering if these streaming services are almost going to start to cannibalize themselves because you're only going to be willing to spend so much and have so many streaming services. And I know Roku and Xbox and PlayStation makes these a lot more convenient, right? That's how people can enjoy these streaming services. It's not like they're all doing it on the computer. But, I mean, there has to be a limit, right? I mean, for most people, it's Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. Wouldn't you say that's the big three, Andrew?
Yeah.
And then it's like you add things like WWE Network. You add things like Shudder, the new horror streaming when you got a Walmart streaming, HBO, Showtime, any of those like
CBS
premium.
All Access.
Yeah, where you have to go to watch Star Trek Discovery. It's like by the whole purpose, as my phone is destroyed, the whole purpose of
you
these...
need another one at Walmart.
This podcast is sponsored by Walmart.com. They have a beautiful distribution center in the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina. The thing is, though, the purpose of cord cutting originally was to save money.
Right.
And we're almost to the point that if you want to get everything, that it's adding up to be the cost of a Spectrum or a DirecTV, and is that going to even things out? Will that push people back toward those services if I could get a lot of this under one roof as opposed to here, and here for $10 cheaper? Go ahead, Kate.
Well, I mean, I don't think so, because part of the appeal is that I can pick and choose. If I don't need my own wrestling streaming service, I don't have to pay the amount, to get it. I can pick and choose because, I use Netflix and Hulu mostly. Mm-hmm. I can just use those two. You talk about the other ones coming out, the Disney, the whatever. I'm not interested in watching I like Star Trek, but I'm not interested in watching the new Star Trek, so I don't really need their streaming service. I don't know.
What's going to be interesting, too, is when Apple comes out with their streaming service. Because Apple's one of the only companies in the world that has the amount of money that Disney has to be able to push for original content at that level that I think Disney will with the Star Wars show, or Netflix has done with some of their more upper echelon shows on there. And I do think that is when streaming will change. Not with the Walmart streaming service, but when Disney puts their service out and when Apple decides to put their service out, which Disney's supposed to be Christmas 2019 around then, and Apple, we don't know. It's just rumored at this point. So you're talking about beyond 2020 at this point. And it's like, I feel like people will eventually get to the point to where they pick one or two, as opposed to, I can't imagine having Apple streaming, Disney streaming, Hulu, Amazon. Like, it's going to add up to almost the price of
you
cable.
wait till your little one's older, though, and you may change your
I
mind.
want Disney streaming
that's what I'm
anyway.
thinking.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you might pick which two are going to be the best, or three are going to be the best for you, and that's it. I mean, and that's
DC streaming too, Jerry, coming out with their own.
Yeah, DC is doing its own thing as well, and again, it's interesting, but I don't know.
I also think it's a possibility could be, because of the ease of these subscription services, it's something you rotate, where it's, there's certain shows, so like, okay, I'm going to binge, I get Netflix during the summer and binge, the shows I missed out on, and during, and then I'll do Hulu at the beginning of the year to do those fall shows I want to watch or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, that's a possibility, but I don't know, I think some of these services are getting more and more niche. And
Like Shudder, the horror ones. Have you heard of this one, Jerry? It
I've
sounds
heard of
awesome.
it.
It's $5 a month, but again, it's like $5 isn't much, but 5, 10, 15 here, there, and everywhere
Sure,
adds
but
up.
he's right. You could just pay your $5 for Halloween.
Oh, and you can. Oh, who wants to
Yeah,
just
there you
watch
go.
horror for Halloween? I mean,
Oh, okay. Normal people typically,
normal
but
people,
it's
that's
whatever.
true.
People
Well,
who are not sitting at the table.
at least
Yeah.
August, September, and October.
Yeah,
I'm
August
just saying
1st.
it doesn't have to be
I see
a
what
full
you're
First half of
year.
November.
Yeah,
You get
that
your-
is the beauty. She
Get
brought
your
up.
free Halloween week.
She brought up the thing that really sets these streaming services apart from cable is you can cancel anytime.
Mm-hmm.
And if cable wants to get back in the game, or DirecTV does, and I know they have their own streaming with DirecTV now, there's another one for us. They're going to have to be more lenient on those contracts. And
the biggest thing is sports. They still really have a grip
Yeah.
on sports, and that's the kind of biggest thing that they're holding on to.
But
honestly.
ESPN, Adam Dixon brought this up in the in the Facebook poll. It's like, will ESPN content and be on Disney streaming?
Well, I'm surprised there's even a whole DC streaming, and there's not going to be like a full Warner Brothers.
I know that doesn't
streaming,
make
yeah.
much sense.
Yeah, I'm still looking at it. I mean, being a huge DC fan, but I'm still trying to figure out. I signed up for the beta testing or whatever to potentially be a beta tester, whatever they call it, to check it out. But I'm sitting there and like, how often would this be something I would really?
It's $8 a month, I think.
Yeah, well, it'd have to be like, what exactly is there that I'm really going to use?
Especially as someone who's a bad TV watcher.
I'm a bad TV watcher. I don't like digital comics, so
They're
I'm not quite sure.
innovative from the fact that they're really bringing in, it seems like, social interaction to this.
Which I
know you're not big into.
I have a blog. I
But
don't need any
one
more
of the
social
things,
interaction.
so I'm a high school teacher, and one of the things the students, when they talk about movies and TV, what they'll do is they'll go get in a party on Xbox or something, and they'll start a movie at the same time where they can watch it together and discuss it. Andrew, I know you would hate this, especially
No, we did
with
this
me.
once.
Oh, y'all did that
on Xbox. Do you recall? It was like, was it Netflix or something?
Yeah.
I don't remember. We totally did this
We
once.
tried it one time because it was a new feature on 360.
Right, it was a new feature, and like your little your avatar would show up, and you could make it like laugh and
But it-
throw popcorn.
cool.
It just seemed like the most pointless thing in the world to me.
So you think
Maybe,
that will
but
not
I
be?
used to do that with The Walking Dead. I had a long distance friend. We'd pull up Skype and we'd watch the show together. And during commercials, we'd talk about the thing we saw. Oh my God, are you seeing that? Of course, there's a little bit of delay because it was live TV and whatever. But
Yeah, I've definitely
I
done
kind
that
of
too.
liked it.
Another big question too is as these as these streaming services become more prevalent, more people subscribe to them, and they're able to do big budget things, especially with Apple and Disney coming in, is how much are these going to affect movie theater attendance, which is already down?
I think it's going to affect movie theater attendance a lot, especially like a Disney streaming service.
Yeah. Are we going to get to the point, though, to where I think we're already kind of to the point people would rather stream a movie than go to a movie? But are we to the point that when we think about seeing a new movie for the first time, we think about streaming it rather than going to the theater? I could see us being there in 10, 15 years. Couldn't you guys?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely not
Maybe.
there yet.
Yeah.
No. So let's see what some people on Twitter and Facebook had to say about streaming. So I put one poll out there. What streaming services will you have by 2020?
You assumed everybody would have Netflix at least.
All right, Netflix was one option. Netflix and Hulu. Netflix, Hulu, and Disney. Netflix, Hulu, Disney, and DC. Of course, I didn't include Amazon here. 50% was Netflix. Everybody was at 17, 16 for the other one. So Netflix is, when people think of streaming, they think of Netflix, right? It is the quintessential must-have streaming service. We also did a Facebook poll, and this one I think was a little bit more interesting, and it was specifically about the Disney streaming service, and we got a lot of comments on this one on Facebook. And the bad thing about Facebook polls, and I'll let DC Roberts, we talked about this, speaking of DC,
let him know.
That you can only do like
two options on a public poll.
Unless it's in a group, you can do a ton of options. Exactly right. So I said, how much would you be willing to pay for a Disney streaming service, assuming it has all the Pixar movies, MCU movies, Star Wars, and the Star Wars live action show? And 84% said $13 to $20 a month. Only 16% would pay above $20 a month for this. I said between 21 and 27. I assume it's going to cost at least $13 a month. Because Netflix is $11.99 right now. They're already talking about going up on their prices again. Yeah. So you think Disney would be somewhere within that range?
Possibly, but I mean, HBO, as much as original content as they had, it was still, I'm thinking it was like $15 a month. I was still like, it's kind of steep compared to some of these other ones. Mm-hmm. Like Disney having that back catalog is great. There's a lot of great movies there, but I could easily see somebody doing like, I feel like watching the Aladdin movies. Instead of renting all of them for however much, I may pay. Well, see, I don't know, $13 is even a little much for that. But I can see somebody doing that in spurts, or somebody with kids who love the Disney films. Yeah. But as far as original content, like it needs more than just a Star Wars show. Maybe even if it's multiple Star Wars shows, they bring Clone Wars on there, or Rebels or something.
Well, my guess it would be sort of replacing like the Disney Channel. You would have access to all of those things.
Sure, I mean if that's what it is, then I mean not for me. I don't watch the Disney Channel, so. But I mean, but I don't know. It's going to need a lot more than just an archive to get me to pay that much a month.
Let's look at two comments here from both ends of the spectrum. Gassicles, who we brought up in our Batman versus Superman, he said, hey, I have two Disney kids, two daughters. He said, I would take down the hardest counterterrorism unit, and I would pay whatever amount it took to have an emergency trove of content that would guarantee me some peace and quiet. And then I had one of my buddies from Mondo Trader, the Facebook group, Don Simonic, said, I don't think Disney streaming will be robust enough to pay a monthly fee. And it seems like people with Disney streaming are one end or the other. It's not enough here, kind of like with HBO. Very similar, or hey, I have kids, so
HBO already does have enough. It was just a higher price, you know what I mean, than Netflix and Hulu and Amazon.
HBO was an established network too. This will be an upstart.
Sure, I'm not saying you're right. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's not a good comparison.
Well,
on my
and the
part.
other thing I think would be, just with even the back content, a lot of people who are diehard Disney fans already own all of this.
Right.
I mean, the people I know who are really hardcore, they still have all their VHS tapes. Like, I mean, it's
clamshell cases.
Yeah. I still have some. I mean, my favorite movies still exist in VHS format because I love them so much. The ones that I didn't accidentally break. So, I don't know if even for people who really love it and want to have them all would need it on a monthly basis.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move into the collecting portion of the show. But before we do, I just want to go around the table here and say yes or no. Will you get Disney streaming? Kate?
Probably not.
All right, and let's assume it's between $13 and $20 a month for this scenario.
I definitely woun't pay that for it.
All right, what about you, Andrew?
Yeah, if it's only the back catalog and the one Star Wars show, like definitely not. Like I might get it for once, however they release the Star Wars show, maybe I'll get it for a month, binge the Star Wars show.
Kind of like people deal with Star Trek Discovery.
Right, yeah.
CBS All Access. What about you, Jerry? I'm interested on this one.
Yeah. If there's a new Star Wars program and Clone Wars, which are two things that we know that could be on there. If there's some new Star Wars programming, then I would be very likely to get it. Plus, I have a child who would be around 5 or 6 at that time.
Perfect age, right?
And so the amount of content on there, again, especially if there's new shows, I would probably consider canceling like Hulu maybe. You know, and then swapping.
I think she watches it more than we do.
Yeah, swapping something like that out. Like I would probably have to put a limit at like, you know, we're gonna do two or three streaming services.
What about you, Kristen?
It depends on the cost. I mean, my personal thought is that if it's $15 a month, I might be like, yeah, no. But I mean, if it's
what
it's
HBO
20,
is,
definitely
right?
not. That's my thought.
Yeah.
But I think it really just depends on the cost.
It just depends for me, like what it's, you know, what it's giving me, and
what it's offering, and what the cost
what it's
is,
offering,
yes.
and I mean, especially for me, is going to be if it's legitimate new Star Wars content on a regular basis, then I'm way more likely to keep up with it.
Well, look at it this way, and you hit the nail right on the head when you talked about Star Wars and Disney kind of kids content. It's cheaper to pay $15 a month for the streaming service than to go out and buy these Blu-rays, especially if they re-release them.
That's true.
Oh, and the other thing, Disney streaming is supposed to be the only place you're going to be able to get 4K HDR content of, and I know that's not a lot of people have 4K HDR, but if you want that, Disney streaming to be the only place, this is a rumor, that you'll be able to get the classics in 4K HDR, that they're going to remaster these just for 4K and HDR, like they did for Blu-ray. And for me, it's cheaper instead of. I'm a physical media guy. Y'all know this.
I am too.
And Jerry is too. Like, if it's between $15 or $20 a pop per Blu-ray, so Harper can watch these, versus $15 or $20 a month, and most of them are on there, or they rotate them in and out every month. Plus Star Wars, I'm going to pay for this probably. But I'm also said, believe it or not, next June I'm dropping DirecTV.
Okay.
Congrats.
I am. I know that is. I've been with them since 2011. Contract's finally out. I'm getting an over-the-air antenna to watch Panther games. Go ahead,
The
Kate.
divorce
You
is
want to say
final.
something?
No, I was just thinking, you know, people who don't have kids that they don't want to reintroduce to these classics that we have, reformatting them might actually ruin some of their nostalgia.
That's a good topic for another day.
I'm just saying.
I think that's a really good topic for another day. Let's go ahead and get into collecting.
Each sold separately, batteries not included.
You can collect Star Wars toys to build your forces and join the rebellion.
Jerry, you had collecting. What's your topic?
Well, obviously the biggest thing this week for collecting is that it was San Diego Comic-Con, and so 2018, and we saw lots of new action figures, which I think this is the bad thing about doing the collecting thing with a big group, is I think I'm the only person here that really collects a lot.
Well, I buy,
Unless you
sell,
count board
buy,
games.
sell.
Was it?
Unless you count board games.
Right, which I don't for collecting. but we could, but I didn't pay any attention to anything with board games. So one of the things, though, that has been an ongoing conversation between Brad and I is that Mattel had a really big showing for DC action figures. Mattel has had the DC license since about 2002, if I think I'm correct. And I would say, what do you think, Brad? Probably about 2013, 2014, Mattel really dropped their DC stuff. They got rid of DC Universe Classics. They went to DC Signature Series.
It's been a back and forth, a ping-pong match between
a couple years
DC
ago, they went to the
Collectibles and
Multiverse
Mattel.
line, but they've kind of pulled back from that a little bit as well. And so we were trying to figure out what was going on. The same thing has been happening with DC Collectibles, which is ran by Warner Brothers, but DC Collectibles has done action figures. They used to be called DC Direct. They didn't show a whole lot of stuff. They're really going towards statues. DC Collectibles cancels. They put out all this stuff at conventions for action figures, and then a couple months later they cancel
It's
it.
like me ordering stuff. I order it, and I cancel it,
and
I
they
sell
cancel it. But it was really interesting that Mattel had such a huge panel and showed off a lot of things. First time Mattel's had a DC panel in quite a few years.
That penguin looked cool.
The penguin looked very cool, but they had a lot of current stuff as well. Lots of Rebirth characters, lots of significant characters and side characters as well. So it seems like maybe Mattel is really flexing their muscle, being I think they're the primary holder for the DC license for retail.
Kind of like Playmates is with TMNT.
Yeah, although, did you see some of that might be changing?
Yeah, I saw that they're going to maybe go to retail on some of the NECA cartoon and video game stuff.
That's amazing stuff right there.
Yeah.
Anyways, Mattel had a great showing. The Star Wars Black series had a really good showing at San Diego Comic-Con. I know Kristen saw some of the stuff there. Kristen, what was your favorite Star Wars Black series reveal from San Diego Comic-Con?
I have no idea.
I showed them all to you.
I'll tell you what my favorite thing that I saw.
Dr. Aphra.
As far as collectibles,
Obviously.
my favorite was the 1/4 scale foot soldier.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I saw
It's very
Randy
cool.
Falk had a product
From
at NECA,
NECA,
being interviewed by Pixel Dan, and he was talking about how they're working on a 1/4 scale shredder. Makes me really regret selling those 1/4 scale Ninja Turtles as Jerry looks at his Raph in a trench coat. Jerry, would you consider picking up any of these other 1/4 scale turtles? I know they take up a lot of room.
I would consider picking up the Shredder.
Really?
Yes.
And what would put you over the top for that?
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, why Shredder and not
Because
like,
it's the Shredder.
okay?
It's the movie. It's the movie version of the Shredder, which you gotta admit is a pretty cool costume.
It is.
Yeah.
It's different, but it captures what you, I guess, as a kid watching the cartoon, what you thought the Shredder, how scary you really thought he could be,
Oh yeah.
and it really made him that frightening.
He is scary that first time you see him walk in and that music hits and they're just like, just
The cape.
all encompassing,
Yeah.
just that cape.
I will be
yeah,
honest
like,
as well. If they made Tatsu,
oh god.
oh my gosh, I would have to have a Shredder. And
Would you be
Tatsu.
surprised at this point though? Because they're the way that Randy Fox pushing the 1/4 scale line. I wouldn't be. I'm
In
pissed.
a 7-inch scale, I wouldn't be surprised with Tatsu. I would be surprised with Tatsu in 1/4
They
scale.
said they're getting more movie exclusives to cons at 7-inch
Yeah.
scale. You know I don't collect as much, and I buy and sell. I go back and forth.
what you do.
That's what I do. But what I'm really pissed about, because I really tried all 3 days to get the Turtles, the 7-inch Turtles,
Yeah.
the movie, and I want to be able to own those at a reason. Like I would pay $150 for those, but I'm not paying $350 for them. That's the scalper price. This is the argument Andrew's made against Mondo for years. I want to own your damn product.
Yeah.
Make it exclusive to online shop, but give me a timed edition like Mondo did with their
So,
Infinity War poster.
Here's the problem, and not trying to... I get frustrated by exclusives, too. I don't really like exclusives that well, either. I think that...
That's a topic we could have down the road.
It's a very
Yeah.
problematic issue. So what NECA has said over and over, typically NECA product is very easy to get a hold of. NECA reissues product, NECA makes sure it's out there for folks. NECA reissues older things. They're getting ready to reissue some of the Coraline dolls and Coraline PVCs, which we have all the Coraline dolls up there. They're reissuing some of those because people love them, and those have become insanely rare and very expensive. Playmates has had such a stranglehold on the Ninja Turtles license that when NECA wants to do these 7-inch turtles in that, a more classic scale, Playmate, they have really had to do things like, well, it can only be a Comic-Con exclusive and you can only make so many units. So Playmates has really, it sounds like, put a lot of restrictions on
Why
them.
can't Playmates give us something of that quality then? They don't understand collectors. We've talked about this for years on this podcast.
Playmates' efforts towards being a collectible license for the Ninja Turtle line have been very, very average at most. They released the 4 cartoon turtles back around 2012, 2013. People love those.
Bebop and Rocksteady.
They went with Bebop and Rocksteady. They canceled everything else. They didn't do anything after that. They did the movie Turtles. Didn't do anything after that.
And those didn't look all that great. But
they were okay, but yeah, you're right.
The 1/4 scale takes up so much room. I mean, like, you have Raph, and you could have all 4 turtles, but it would take up room for other stuff.
I have 4 1/4 scale. I have 3 1/4 scale figures, and I have 1 1/4 scale statue.
I want to get the ooze canister though.
The ooze canister is really cool. I like the Casey Jones hockey mask.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Comic-Con had some good stuff from Mattel. My gosh, Hasbro showing the Marvel Legends stuff was crazy. I don't collect Marvel stuff.
I'm glad I don't anymore, because that was insane.
The Sentinel,
Are the
giant Sentinel with Old Man Logan.
the Killmonger in the
Yeah.
tribal outfit. Holy smokes.
That was really cool. They showed some great stuff.
M'Baku.
It's one of
Really
those
cool.
things where I don't collect Marvel Legends. Every time I see them, I'm tempted. I buy Marvel Legends from time to time. I think this year I bought 3 or 4 thus far.
I bought some from Jerry, then sold them.
Yeah, I bought Black Panther from the movie, and I bought a couple of the Netflix series ones. I think I bought Elektra and then Jessica Jones, which I sold you.
Okay, if you could own one product shown at this year's Comic-Con, what would it be?
I am really, really, really excited for the Chopper from Star Wars Rebels. Chopper is one of my favorite characters from Rebels, and I was really excited that they're continuing the Rebels series.
All right, at the risk of our other co-host checking out mentally, I think we'll go ahead and move into the next segment, which is going to be Andrew Stokes' segment, Movies. Andrew Stokes, what do you have for us in the movies segment?
Well, watching these Comic-Con trailers that came out, we got 2 more DC ones. We got the Godzilla King of All Monsters, or whatever the subtitle is. And then we got the new Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yeah, and we got Glass too, which is the sequel to
I'm not going there. Well, maybe a little bit there.
Okay.
I was just wondering, a lot of these studios, they're trying to get to the success that Marvel's doing with these expanded universes, and they're trying kind of different avenues, you know what I mean? But even like, the Harry Potter trailer has like their Wizarding World logo and stuff, and a lot of these are trying to establish this kind of expanded or continuing, universe. Does anybody here, do you think that Marvel's expanded universe will collapse, or somebody else will successfully make one? Which do you think would happen first? Because right now it's like everybody, some are successful. Star Wars is successful, but it was Star Wars, you know what I mean? But some of their kind of side films are kind of, maybe not being as successful. Harry Potter is it's Harry Potter. It's kind of an expanded universe, but they're kind of doing their own thing. It's almost like they're doing a prequel trilogy or something, or a prequel series, but it's not really a prequel to Harry Potter necessarily, the character. So like, people are doing kind of their own different versions of them. I think DC's the closest, and maybe the Universal Dark Universe, thing that they were trying. Those are maybe the closest to actually, exactly what Marvel was doing. But what do you think? Do you see Marvel collapsing first? Do you see somebody else actually creating something else comparable?
I think Marvel's going to collapse first, and here's my reason why. And I would never have said this probably 48 hours ago. Guardians 3 was supposed to be the kind of launching point for what's to come after Avengers 4. And James Gunn was kind of supposed to be the architect of the next waves of Marvel Cinematic Universe films. And I'm not going to get into the James Gunn stuff. It was offensive what he said. It seems like it was still a term from our president, a witch hunt from some alt-right people.
10 plus years ago.
Yeah, to ruin his career. But we can maybe talk about that in future episodes, but that's not the topic here. But I think 2 things are going to lead to Marvel, not demise. I just think that they will... When you say, do you mean complete failure, or it will be a substantial drop-off?
Yeah, it's just going to stop being the success that it is now.
I think 2 things. One's the James Gunn thing. I think those are going to be hard shoes to fill. That's number 1. Number 2, I think when the replacements for the original Avengers, when the Chris Evans move on, when especially Robert Downey Jr. moves on, I do think there will be somewhat of a drop-off in these MCU movies. And I don't want to say superhero fatigue, because I think that's never going to get here as long as you make good superhero movies. I think they're going to push, Kevin Feige said, more diverse characters such as Ironheart, such as Jane Foster Thor. I'm all for that. I like that stuff in the comics. It was fine. That being said, Marvel's comic sales numbers dropped substantially when they push those more progressive characters. So it'd be interesting to see. Movie audience is obviously something completely different, but how they would react. But the question is, what will be the successful one? You know what I think is really going to be a big success? I know Disney and Star Wars has been a financial success, but critically it's been a success as well. But among the fan community, it has not.
It's been very divisive.
I think that Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy, I know... Look, Rian Johnson, I've shit-talked him a half a dozen times on this podcast. I think I said I hate him in the past. I don't. I just want to get that on the record.
Redacted.
Redacted. Yeah, sorry. So anyway, I think when he gets to do a Star Wars trilogy with his own characters, original storytelling, I think Star Wars will flourish. One of the things we talked about way back when, because I went back and listened to some of those retro rewinds we've been posting, is that we were excited to see new stories, not just continuation or completely having to go back to the Skywalker saga. And that's all we've seen from Disney. It's always going back to the original trilogy. But I know Star Wars fans are, you go away from the original trilogy, they hate it. You go back toward it, they hate it. It's a very hard fan base.
Kind of. I mean, I think... So I wanted to see the new trilogy. I wanted to see it continue the Skywalker story, because to me that's what the main storyline is for the main Star Wars films.
I think that there's I just want to say one more thing. Yeah. I'm going to shut up and let everybody else talk. I think they'll be right now, if you take the Marvel and Star Wars, when you look at Disney, right, that's their big two moneymakers, their big two properties. We'd all agree that Marvel's leaps and bounds above Star Wars right now, right? As far as from not from the fan perception and from the money-making perception, they're still making more money. And I know Force Awakens was huge, whatever. But I think there's going to be a seesaw in which Star Wars will catapult above Marvel with the Rian Johnson trilogy. I think the Rian Johnson trilogy is going to be a game changer when we can move beyond the Skywalkers.
I mean, I think that's kind of what I want to see, and I mean, to some degree, you do see that in lesser media, I guess, in the expanded universe, in Rebels and stuff like that. I mean, I guess the Clone Wars cartoon kind of is still Skywalker because it's Anakin in it. Right. But I mean, some of the, I agree. I'm ready to see them. The main series, I'm fine with it being Skywalker stuff. I'm ready to see kind of the other stuff. What other parts of the universe there are other than of course, I liked the Solo movie, even though I hated the idea of it.
I liked it too. You did too.
Probably my favorite thing that's come out of Disney for the 4 films. Right. Yeah, Solo.
All right, Kristen, what do you think happens first? Marvel fails, or a new kind of franchise supplants Marvel?
I'm not sure yet. I still think Marvel has a little ways to go. We'll have to see what happens with this James Gunn debacle and figure,
There's a lot of backlash.
There has been a lot of backlash. Almost the entire cast has come out. Several of the cast members have come out in support of him. Directly and indirectly.
And a lot of them have left Twitter and gone social media dark in supporting him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So we'll just, I think a big part of it is seeing how that plays out.
I'm kind of hoping that as opposed to failing or fizzling out, they pick a point and they end it.
They're never going to do that. I agree
but that's
with
what
you.
I would like.
I agree. There should be an end point.
That would be good, yeah.
Because then something else can step up and maybe they can try something different. Because, at some point there's got to be a new formula.
Avengers 4 is the end point for the ride we've been on since Iron Man 1.
Right. So that's what I'm hoping. But, I mean, along the same lines, I worried about that with the Crimes of Grindelwald. Doing the Harry Potter stuff. I love the Harry Potter books. I very much enjoyed the movies. I rewatch them pretty frequently for a movie,
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it and I'm wondering if they're going to end up doing the same thing that I think was a bit of a mistake for Disney, focusing on just the one storyline. This is a good starting point because it's something that was mentioned in the book that we have the setup for. We've got the characters. We know a little bit about Grindelwald and Dumbledore's relationship.
Yeah.
But I'm worried that it's going to get to a point where, is the next set of movies they try to do going to be about Harry Potter's kids? Because I really don't care. I didn't even bother reading that.
Yeah, probably be the Cursed Child.
That play was good. I mean, I think...
I didn't read it. It looks like a fanfic, and I wasn't interested.
I mean, it is. It's definitely different. I mean, it's a play. One thing I think that separates the Harry Potter, like I said, it kind of was already doing its own thing, and it's just continuing. I'm pretty sure J.K. Rowling holds a lot of reins in that universe, though. Still, It's still very much a her type thing. It's not so much this collaborative brainchild that a lot of these other, for better or for worse, other properties are. And I think that's one thing that separates it. But yeah, I mean, that is something that some people already think it's gone too far, but a lot of those aren't really your hardcore Harry Potter fans. Some fans love every new revelation, even if it's on Twitter that comes out. So I think that has some steam. I think Star Wars is the closest, but that was already kind of a built-in franchise that had this expanded universe
I think franchises are dangerous for Hollywood to some extent. I think they have kind of, it's not about actors, it's not about directors anymore, it's not about original storytelling, because they know that franchise, if they can fail on 3 but hit on 1, if they really hit on 1, if they find the next Marvel MCU, it's going to be all worth it. Go ahead, Jerry.
One of the biggest things that I think is just still interesting to think about is how in the world, or why did Solo fail? Because Solo failed pretty hard for a Star Wars film.
Yeah. With
that kind of built-in brand. It was very original trilogy, and I think it's one of those where you look at it, overall, the Star Wars fans, the kind of folks who are sitting on, Star Wars forums and websites talking about it, love this film. General audiences just didn't really care about it. And one of the things you have to realize is, there's a big difference between a film that hits general box offices and your average moviegoer is interested in, and your things that can survive a long time that are more of a direct market. Comic books, again, you can have Marvel and DC going. It's interesting, DC keeps growing, doing different things. They can keep expanding. In the comic books, they're having a hard time hitting a direct market. Marvel has had the opposite problem. Marvel is successful at this very popular level. At the comic level, Marvel has had some big missteps over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Now, I think I think Marvel has done a great job of bringing in new characters in waves. So while we may lose some characters after the next film, we're going to have plenty of characters that people are already invested in.
Like Black Panther.
Spider-Man.
Doctor Strange.
The Guardians. Doctor Strange. And it's not going to feel like, oh, we've just lost all those people. And again, they may keep a good bit of the original cast. They may decide that they're keeping around Black Widow and the Hulk. And things will just continue, and you'll have kind of this, I don't want to bring up the soap opera thing because I'm not talking about the drama, but think about how long-running shows take out characters and add new characters in. And I could see this just being a continual thing. They're going to continue to reinvent themselves.
I would like a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I feel like we do have an end to this series, as I said.
But
go ahead.
Here's the nature of the medium. When have superhero comics ever had a beginning, a middle, and an end?
That's true.
Even when they die.
Yeah, if you either have a legacy character, you bring the character back, and Marvel is giving us. And again, I'm the diehard DC fan, and I want to talk about Aquaman and Shazam. I don't know if we're gonna do that.
I wouldn't mind. Yeah.
But Marvel is doing exactly what comic books do. They're introducing new characters, but then they're bringing everybody together as well. The Guardians do great on their own, but you know what? They do great mixed together. And I think that's one of the things about a franchise is, yes, it's cool to expand and see something different, but guess what? At the heart of it, like Star Wars, I love the original trilogy. If you give me something Tolkien, I would love some extra stories or some new stories or whatever. But guess what? At the heart, it has to come in some way back to, you know, Middle Earth, and it has to involve something with Sauron's ring in some way. You know, I love the DC universe and different characters, but you gotta bring me back to Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, or at some point, it doesn't feel like the DC universe anymore. I think DC is possibly on the cusp of starting to do some things right. They've got 2 movies out that I think overall people seem to be really excited about. I think folks are excited about Wonder Woman. I think,
most people are.
I think most people are very excited about Wonder Woman 85. Is that
84.
84.
Yes,
Yeah.
84.
I think Wonder Woman 84 seems to be doing really, really well in terms of people talking about it, major news outlets doing stories on it, and I think people overall are really liking Shazam and finding Shazam to be something pretty refreshing.
Yeah.
Aquaman, I'm seeing a mixture. I'm seeing some people not liking it. Some people saying this looks like the most amazing thing ever because there's people riding armored sharks with weapons. So people are talking about these movies and in more of a positive way. And I'm interested to see where this goes. I think DC could be on the cusp. There's a lot of excitement about the Birds of Prey. Again, kind of letting Margot Robbie lead this new group of people. And again, this is getting a lot of major news outlets talking about, here we go, we have a superhero film that's led by, a female and a group of women. And so that's something that's going to be different. Maybe it's going to have the Black Panther effect where you had, a group that hasn't typically had a major superhero before. So
we can agree that Venom looks pretty rough, though, right?
I'm not really excited about Venom.
I'm going to talk about that at the end of the episode.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I agree with you completely. So you guys wanted to talk about Shazam and Aquaman.
Yeah.
Shazam looks fun.
Shazam looks it looks refreshing.
Yeah.
That's the best way I could put it. Like, it looks like they're going to pull off that very hard, balance between fun and camp and a really good movie, kind of like Guardians does. And Zachary Levi looks fantastic in this role, and the kid who was in It, I can't remember the kid's name, but he was Eddie in It. But
okay.
Anyway.
Oh, okay. Eddie Casper. I don't remember the kid's name who played him, though.
Yeah, but it looks like it's just going to be a hell of a lot of fun. How it plays into the DCEU, I don't know. And
So
Shazam's such a big part of the DC mythos.
There's just a couple there's a couple elements there. Like, it's clear. I mean, you see the newspaper that mentions Superman. You see that Freddy has a batarang sitting.
Oh, it's clearly in the universe.
Yeah,
I just wonder down the line, will he play any consequential role? I mean, wouldn't we love to see Shazam fight Superman on screen? Wouldn't that just be badass?
Why would Shazam fight Superman?
Kingdom Come?
Well,
I mean, come on.
I mean, that's
iconic.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty random story. I mean, I like Kingdom Come. I just read it last week, but
yeah, that's an epic
I don't know.
story.
It's definitely not the thing I ever think of when I think of Shazam. So Captain Marvel was more popular than Superman during the, I want to say, the early 40s and late 30s. Shazam and Captain Marvel and the Marvel family sold more comics. So it's
Aquaman, on the other hand, does not look good.
Well, I mean, I'm afraid that Aquaman looks like what they were doing with Suicide Squad. I feel like with the marketing for Suicide Squad, they were trying to make it seem more lighthearted and than it really turned out to be. They were trying to Man of Steel and what BVS had already come out, and they were kind of, and then Guardians was big, and it's like, oh, no, this is funny, you know what I mean? This is like entertaining. But then that was really just the marketing. I'm afraid Aquaman is some of that as well. It definitely has some of that. What I call Zack Snyder-esque aesthetic to it, you know what I mean? Like what they've been trying to make the aesthetic of this DC universe, that's there in the trailer. But there's also these jokes, and Aquaman almost seems Thor Ragnarok-ish in some of the scenes. What it turns out to be, I don't know. Some of the scenes I think look really cool, and I'm like, I know overall I liked the trailer, but I've liked almost every DC trailer that's come out.
Trailers are great, but the DCEU were, how many years into it now? Man of Steel was 2013. And they still haven't figured it out. And I just don't know if they ever are. And we can talk about this maybe as a topic down the line on this podcast. I think they need to focus on individual characters. We've said this before. Do a Wonder Woman trilogy. If Aquaman works, do an Aquaman trilogy. And down the line, maybe you pull these. I still want to see Man of Steel, too. Yeah. I may be the only one. I know Andrew doesn't.
Movies. I think they've had some decent films. They haven't gelled together. I think that's the issue.
Not everything has to be Marvel.
Right.
Like, all right. Anything else you want to say in the movie segment, guys? I think that about does it. All right, let's go ahead and move into comics. So it was announced this week for Marvel that Shuri, the breakout star from Black Panther, the breakout character, I should say, from Black Panther, was getting her own solo series.
Shuri is his sister.
Yeah, his sister. Written by Nnedi Okorafor, who actually has her PhD in what? I have no idea. It just said PhD on
Archaeology.
Twitter. Anyway, so
I don't know if that's true.
The reason I pulled this as a topic is, should we push movies in the comics? So this character was very popular. The performance was outstanding. The actress's name is Letitia Wright, played Shuri in Black Panther. She was one of the standouts. She was great in Infinity War as well. But is this going to translate to the page? Just because I think the performance was better than the character. So I think when you just push this character in a solo series, a mini-series I can completely see. But this is going to be an ongoing. I just don't know if this is an effective strategy, and Marvel seems to repeat this mistake multiple times. Jerry, what do you think about this?
I mean, I'm just curious because I'm
okay.
What other Marvel characters have had?
It's more of like making the comics more like the movies,
Mm-hmm.
like bringing in Phil Coulson into the comics. It didn't feel organic at all. Making the main Nick Fury look like Sam Jackson. I know we always had the Ultimate one, but making it where it was Nick Fury's son, so he could look like Sam Jackson. Just all these convoluted ways to try to make the comics like the movies, to make the comics more successful, and it's failed time and time again at Marvel. Marvel Comics has always really done its best when the comics were a catalyst for the movies, not the other way around.
Because they're doing closer to the Star Wars, where the movies drive everything, and all the other media follows off of the movies a bit more, correct?
That's not what they're doing now with Fresh Start. They've actually...
Fresh Start is something different.
Yeah, they've actually...
So Shuri, I mean, is this going to be like a tie-in for the movie, or is this...
No, it's her own... She's going to be closely modeled after Letitia Wright's performance, but it's not supposed to be a movie tie-in. It's supposed to be its own solo series.
I mean, it seems like a pretty reasonable thing to do if you have a new character... if you have a new character that people have really latched onto. There was lots of coverage of this character that she was a positive role model for younger girls and a positive role model for younger girls entering into STEM fields. I mean, that was a big deal. People were talking about when this film came out. People seemed to really, have embraced the character. So, I mean, I guess why not bring her in? I mean, if the book doesn't sell, then they just cancel it. It's not like a film where they're, putting all this, it's going to damage the character's reputation or anything.
It's just a more of an overall strategy at Marvel that bothers me. This hasn't worked time and time again, but you seem to want to repeat this same mistake. Like, they're not... Like, a couple months ago, I could have seen them making Shuri the leader of the Avengers. So they're not going that far. Yeah. Like, they are kind of treading lightly. And, I mean, the book, it sounds cool. It sounds fun. But I think they should try, like, miniseries more like with what DC is doing with Black Label. Yeah. And it could be out of continuity. And I wish Marvel and all comic book companies would push that
So
thing.
Shuri didn't exist before Black Panther?
She existed.
Okay.
But this is clearly the movie version in comic book form.
Changing her a little bit for this.
Making her more like the movie version. Yeah.
I mean, that,
just doesn't seem organic at all.
I mean, again, if their movies are their most successful thing, so I don't know that I can blame them for trying this.
But what makes these characters? Is it the characters now in 2018, okay? Is it the characters themselves? Like, does Tony Stark, Iron Man, stand alone by himself as a character, or is he only a upper echelon character when Robert Downey Jr. is playing him? Because with Batman, we know he's an upper echelon character no matter who's playing him, I think. Well, not no matter who. We'll take George Clooney and Val Kilmer out of that. But we've seen multiple people play Batman. It's been a success, right?
Let's think about, I mean, you remember the Batman Renaissance. I mean, we were alive for that. Batman was popular, but the Tim Burton films launched Batman into pop culture. Mm-hmm. And everybody people, still love and revere Michael Keaton's role, but Batman is bigger than that.
So do you think that Iron Man's bigger than Robert Downey Jr.? Because I don't. I think Batman's bigger than any actor that's ever played him. I think Robert Downey Jr. is such a larger-than-life individual, and his performance is so iconic that Iron Man is not.
I wouldn't say Iron Man, but I would say Captain America.
Captain America,
definitely. There's definitely characters that are larger. Now,
Spider-Man.
I mean, I was
Spider-Man for
and we
sure.
actually have examples because he has been played by multiple different actors.
I'd agree with that.
But it makes sense. I mean, again, if Marvel's strategy is they want to bring in younger readers and they want people to read what they're most familiar with. I mean, we talked about this previously, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier. People were going and watching, the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, And then they were going to read the comics, and they weren't finding Tony Stark as Iron Man. They weren't finding Thor as, Thor. They were finding Jane Foster as Thor or Ironheart. They were finding characters that
they were making them completely different characters. Though. That's kind of a different thing.
Right. So here's Marvel trying to make sure that people who go to read the comics are getting something that they're passingly familiar with.
We'll see if it works. I'd read the trade.
I find this to be pretty benign. And we've had, from DC, I can think of multiple good examples of them bringing in media characters and putting into the comics. The most prominent one being Harley Quinn, who was created for the cartoon and brought in initially looking like the cartoon, but who has taken on completely a life of her own.
DC does better at that than Marvel. I think DC does a lot of things better than Marvel in the comics realm.
Cut out for a second. What did you say?
DC
Can you say that
does
again?
that better than Marvel. Does anybody want to say anything else about this final segment?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, a character has to start somewhere to a degree. You know what I mean? Maybe this character is going to be one of the biggest characters in like 30 years or something. You know what I mean? They got to start somewhere. I think that, you're both kind of right. Marvel keeps doing this. They feel like they keep throwing these cinematic ideas at the wall and nothing's sticking. But at the same time, like, that is the cinematic universe is their big success, and starting up a new comic is nowhere near, the financial, investment that a new movie would be. So it's easier for them to just, throw some more things at the wall. The one thing that I think is for certain, though, is that, Brad is for sure going to check this out.
Yeah, I will for sure check this out. And podcast has been for sure a lot of fun. Kristen, do you want to say, would you read a Shuri comic?
How many comics do you read right now?
I can bring a comic up and say, this is the best Batman Catwoman story I've ever read. It's 15 pages. You need to read it. And Kristen will just set it right up on that bookshelf.
Technically, those books count.
Sandman.
And I'm fairly certain she's read them.
She's read Sandman.
Yeah, that's about it.
I probably would read it. I was kind of looking up the author while y'all were talking, and she seems pretty interesting. Her doctorate is in English, for the record, and she's got 2 masters in journalism.
Brilliant. And Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's been doing Black Panther, is a writer and a professor also, and that's worked well for that series, and he's picking up Captain America now. So let's go ahead to close the show out to get to a few random tweets of the week.
Chicken, Peter, you just a little chicken. Chip, 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 chip.
Who are you calling a chicken?
Come on. Chip, 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 chip. You're not good. You're just a chicken. Chip, 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 chip.
Okay, for the first random tweet, I'm going to go to Brian Wrong on Twitter. Walmart wants to get into the streaming market. I bet their version of Netflix and Chill is the same, just for cousins.
Oh, my God.
I thought that was a pretty good one about Walmart streaming. Let's go to...
Lots of fishing shows.
I would say it'd be more of your snacks or, just generic cheese balls and off-brand garbage.
Let's go to Twitter for comments on Aquaman. Aquaman riding this is from Peter Banning on Twitter. Aquaman riding a parademon alone is in a character with the Aquaman trailer. We knew it was an arc of a loner to the Justice League team member, King Atlantis and spouse of Mira. It's like comparing naive Wonder Woman in a solo film to jaded, experienced Wonder Woman in BVS. Support Aquaman, bro. All right, so there's some support for Aquaman out there.
I honestly couldn't follow any of that. I think the sharks look bad. I'm going to throw that out there.
This is from Paper on Twitter. I want to see Shuri, kind of relating to the Shuri comic here, and Robert Downey Jr., so this is a very good tweet to throw in here. I want to see Shuri take over the Iron Man mantle when Robert Downey Jr. leaves. It overwrites the comic canon successor, but a lot of the pieces are already there to make the narrative work in the MCU. Best result, we get an awesome story about both the characters in the MCU. So I think that is kind of a interesting notion to throw out there. And there was one about Shazam here. This is from US Prezzo on Twitter. Marvel stands of certain groups don't know anything about comics, but have Marvel fans is what he meant. But he said Marvel stands. Yeah. Marvel fans of a certain group don't know anything about comics, but have the audacity to comment on everything. Shazam is what is shown in the trailer. But according to the MCU fans, DC copies Marvel by being funny. So obviously he's kind of.
No, to be fair, I do not care for DC, but I will give him that is what everything I know about Shazam is what they showed in the preview.
All right, let's go to our closing segment where Jerry and I nominate somebody who had the crappiest week and somebody who had the most epic week.
Today I'm keeping another promise to the American people by nominating Lord Voldemort to the United States Supreme Court.
Okay, we'll go negative to positive here. So I have the crap. I'm going to confirm crap Sony and their Venom panel at San Diego Comic-Con. So apparently at this panel, they tried to give out Venom masks. They didn't have enough to give out to the entire crowd. They tried to get everybody to shout, "We are Venom, we are Venom." That didn't work. They refused to shout it. Apparently Carnage was in the footage they showed, but they didn't call him Carnage, even though it looked very similar to Carnage. They called him something else. I'm not sure what they called him. And then they asked Tom Hardy. Mayhem was that?
I'm not.
They asked Tom Hardy would he like to fight Tom Holland Spider-Man. He's like, sure, I'd like to fight.
I would very much like to fight Tom Holland.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a confirmed crap week goes to Sony and Venom. Go ahead, Jerry. Who do you confirm epic this week?
So I will have to say that I thought Hasbro had a very strong showing at San Diego Comic-Con. Their Marvel Legends stuff is incredible, and the fact that I sit there and lament that I don't collect Marvel Legends but look at their stuff is still a really positive thing. They showed some incredible characters. I really thought their Star Wars lineup was strong. Their vintage collection stuff was kind of weak, but overall the Black Series looks to be healthy. That's like my favorite line to collect at the moment, so I would confirm that epic. And I also want to give a shout out to The Toys That Made Us, which is an 8-part documentary series about the toys that we all know. Love that series, and they revealed the 4 new episodes, which are going to be My Little Pony, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Can't wait.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes. Can't wait.
And wrestling toys.
Still can't wait. It's like my childhood right there.
Yeah. I didn't have any horses. Sounds good.
And one of the things that I've said is, obviously, some episodes like Star Wars and Master of the Universe, I just absolutely love. But I've really enjoyed the episodes that were things I didn't know that much about, like Hello Kitty.
Or Barbie. The Barbie one was good.
The Barbie episode was incredible. They just they do a really great job with editing of that show, and it sounds like a solid lineup. So going ahead and giving their lineup an epic as well.
All right, guys. Anybody want to say anything else for episode 100 before we close out?
It was delightful being here for it.
Yeah, it was awesome having Kristen on. It's just been so long. It's been a long time since we all podcasted in person, much less all podcasted in person at this house where it all started. So if you've clicked play, downloaded any of these within the past couple years, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And this has been a lot of fun to do. The show will continue. It will just be a bi-monthly show. So every other week you will get a confirmed epic podcast.
That would be bi-weekly.
Would it be bi-weekly?
Bi-monthly would be every other month.
Okay.
What would be twice a week?
Wouldn't that be bi-weekly too?
No, bi-weekly is every other week. I get paid bi-weekly. I promise. It's every other week.
I feel like those terms are kind of though.
Bi-monthly, bi-weekly is kind of interchangeable,
yeah,
right?
I think some of them are used very. There's no defined term because people do use them.
We need that Shuri writer who has her doctorate in English. She can clarify this. But anyway,
I'm with you, Kate.
We'll come out every other week.
Every other week. That's exactly right.
And of course, we're getting ready to enter into the Halloween season.
Oh, can't wait.
August 1st is quickly approaching, which makes Halloween decorations and everything.
We got to figure out what we're going to do for that. Because I want to do at least one horror-themed episode per month.
Sounds good.
In August, September,
So you're
October.
committing that 100% and that's going to be done. 100% that's happening.
I think so. I think that so we're doing 2 in August, 2 in September, 2 in October. I think every other one could be a horror theme one for sure.
I agree.
Even if we're just reviewing like one horror movie.
We're going to do a horror theme every other week.
But we did a lot of stuff last year. I think there were like 6 hokey Halloween episodes. So
well, I want to thank Brad for a second. Over 100 podcasts. This has been really fun. I know I haven't been on all of them because of, we have scheduling conflicts, but Brad and I have been doing this for a long time now.
I'm gonna cry.
Brad's gonna cry. So I'll get
Do it away from the
bring
mic.
a tissue, Brad. But it has been really fun. One of the, besides talking about the things that we love and care about, toys and comics and the stuff that just, adds a little bit of flavor to our everyday lives. One of the things that has been really fun is sharing it with other people, sharing it with the guests on the show, and most especially sharing it with Brad, getting a chance to talk about these things, and whether we're sort of raging about something that has aggravated us, or we're
DCEU.
Speculating, or we're armchair quarterbacking. Hey, I used the sports term.
Yeah, I know. Wow.
Or we're just gushing about things that we enjoy, or we're just talking about the Christopher Nolan Batman films. It's just been a joy to always have a chance to come here and to talk about it and share it, and just the fact knowing that other people may get some pleasure out of it too, and listen to it, and maybe it gives you something to think about or makes your day a little bit brighter. It's just been a real pleasure to do this for 100 episodes. And hopefully we'll be heading to episode 200 at some point in the future.
It'll take us longer only doing it twice a month, but I hope to get there
one day.
one
But if
day.
we do it consistently.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's true.
The thing that I want to say is I really appreciate Andrew and Jerry, because one of them were always with me on every episode of this podcast, sometimes both. But with the exception of like 1 or 2 episodes, I think I did like the It review solo.
Got something with Abby.
I've done some with Abby where she filled in for Jerry, but like we have committed taking our time, especially the last couple months, Jerry and I staying up late when Jerry would have to get up at 6 in the morning. 5 in the morning. I would have to get up at 5:30, and we still kept the ball rolling. And Andrew's been there. We recorded a lot with Andrew and Kate, especially last summer, last fall. And it seems like whenever you think this podcast is going to die, somebody steps up, whether it's Kate, whether it's Abby filling in, whether it's Kristen showing up for episode 100,
hey.
or just watching Allie, making sure she's in the bed while Jerry can podcast. I know Abby's done the same thing with Harper. And one of the cool things is to think about where we were at when this podcast started in our personal lives and where we are at now. I mean, just as far as like our relationships, having kids, owning homes, like it is really, really fun to go back and reflect on. Andrew, do you want to say anything?
Any big announcements for episode 100, Andrew?
I would just like to say, after reading that Walmart tweet aloud, Brad, I'm sorry you will not be able to be on any future podcast. But no, you were comparing us. You were saying, just when you thought, we were going away, we come back. We're kind of like the Fast and Furious franchise, if you think about it. I think we're. I'd definitely put us right there, if not better, honestly.
Yeah.
So that's all I gotta say. We're better than
Definitely
Fast
better.
and Furious.
Makes sense.
And if you've been with us for every time I say Heart and Stakes, or we mention Christopher Nolan, or every time Andrew brought up Young Justice, or every time Jerry brought up DC Collectibles, or I brought up Mondo, man, thank you, Timothy Belmont. Really.
Thank you, Bob Reed and Timothy
Yeah,
Belmont.
thank you so much. Especially Jerry's two shout outs here, and then we'll close out. Shout out to Jerry's dad, who has always shared this podcast, always liked this, gave us one of our only 2 donations, I believe, to the Confirmed Epic podcast. So his love and support is appreciated. Thank you to my grandma, Betty Alexander, for always believing in me, and my grandpa too, like always pushing me to do this when he was alive. Thought it was really cool. I wish you could hear some more of these episodes. And like the mixer here, my grandma bought that. So thank you so much. And thank you to Abby for being patient with me as I edited this and stayed up late doing this. And I think Jerry would kind of echo the same sentiments to Kristen too.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Kristen, where can people find more of you on the internet this week?
Well, I have a Twitter. It's Arathalia. I rarely use it,
there.
but I'm there.
All right.
Keep checking me out at actionfigurebarbecue.com. That's BARBECUE.com. Haven't posted a lot of reviews lately, but I haven't bought a lot of stuff lately. And of course, I'm also getting everything planned and ready for Halloween stuff, which is coming soon.
What about you, Andrew?
You can follow me on Twitter at aka Andrew Stokes. which is also, been pretty barren.
Curated by me, like his Facebook page.
Like Facebook, yeah. That's it.
All right, what about you, Kate?
Nothing yet, but I'll be setting up a Twitter under
Cool.
Hasild, which is also what I play Fortnite under. If anybody wants a mediocre teammate, hit me up.
Yeah.
You better claim it before this podcast goes out.
Yeah.
Timothy Belmont's going to get it.
I want to say, too, thank you to Gina, a.k.a. Gina Beaner, because she's the one who showed me how to edit the podcast.
That's true.
How to insert the music, how to do everything. The behind-the-scenes stuff that people don't appreciate goes into making not just this podcast, but every podcast you hear.
I definitely don't appreciate it.
And congratulations to Gina, who will be getting married this fall, too. So wish she could have been here. And once again, for the 100th time from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, don't forget to find me at Twitter at @TheRealBradBell, DREEL Brad Bell.
Or online at thepicreview.com.
We are out.
That's all I have to say about that.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks Assemble!
Roll out.